Yeah, I don't even know if I should even ask this question, but, because all mine have been so instant. What would you say? I've never, other than my father-in-law, but, he did luckily get to live, 80 something years.
Yeah.
So he had, some more time. I'd be okay going at 80,
Yeah, me
What
too.
I'm saying is, anything under probably 80, I'm like, that's not acceptable. But, you were still grieving Tyler. So did you still feel, even though you knew what was coming, did you still feel like a double whammy or?
It's a different, I don't know how, I want to be careful with this one because I know what you're asking. You're asking basically.
I'm not trying to sound flippant either.
No.
But
No, I'm going to just say this. There is absolutely no worse heartache or heartbreak than losing a child.
Right.
Period.
Me too.
Because people get divorced, people's spouses pass away, those things, and those are very difficult things. They're very difficult things. But your kid, no matter what, is your kid forever.
Yeah.
And when Tommy passed, it was, for me, juggling at that point the emotions of grief and relief.
Yeah, because he's not suffering.
Because it was, the suffering was a lot.
Yeah.
And what that disease takes you, he was basically completely locked in his body, like a dead body, alive mentally. Like his brain was sharp as a tack, but his body was completely dead.
Yeah.
And, on the day that he actually died, I didn't think that he was going to die that day. I knew it was coming. The time was coming near. But I thought maybe another month, maybe 2 months. But that day we went in to get his trach changed out. And, when all of that was happening and everything, they did it, I stood right there and watched it just like I always did. Watched them do it. Da-da-da-da. It was just like clockwork. Everything went smoothly, and then something went wrong. And they don't know if he had a seizure or if he threw a blood clot or we didn't do an autopsy or any of that because,
You knew.
his body had been through enough.
Yeah.
But but the emergency room doctor came back. He had already gone home and off shift, and Tommy died in between that time. And they called him to tell him, and he came back to the hospital because he came in there and got me, and he said, Mrs. Sharp, I need for you to see this. I want you to see this. So we did when they did the EKG, he hated that. He hated having that done. And, but anyway, they took a picture of his lungs, and he only had one lung. One of them had already atrophied. And so when when he showed me on the screen the picture of the lung, just say like a lung is like that big.
Yeah.
The amount of air that he had was about that much.
Oh my God.
And I wanted to throw up. Like I was like, it was like a quarter size or a nickel size in the grand picture, of the lung. And I was like, at that point, I knew.
Yeah.
I had the relief in that he was no longer suffering. And, but he just meant, he just meant so much to every member of our family. He's a loss.
Yeah.
He was a huge loss
to
not only to me, but to my kids and to my grandkids and to his parents and to his family.
Siblings, yeah.
And his siblings, yes. He was a huge loss, and he was a wealth of information. Like, he's just the one everybody went to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, now here I am trucking along trying to figure it all out. God. So.
Well, yeah, he's
Crazy.
definitely the brains of the. I'm not saying you don't have brains. That's not what I mean. But look at the life y'all led.
Yeah.
Y'all have been very, very blessed.
Yes, we have.
And what a man. has your understanding of grief changed at all? Or you're like, no, I've done this, I don't know.
You know what's weird is because you probably have felt similar to this too, but don't you remember, like, as a young mother going, oh, I can't never lose my kid. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I can't, the
I thought about it
horror,
all the time.
That, that's just no way. So, and then when you would hear people that it happened to, you could only imagine it.
Yeah.
That was as far as we ever gotten. Really, as you could just maybe try to put yourself, but it still doesn't measure to the heartache that
No.
actually happens.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I really felt, how, like, you see the heart, I don't know if you felt this, but you know how you see that little emoji heart that goes like that, like it's like a broken heart, and it does that? Like, I felt that happen to my heart. Like, I felt my heart crack. And that's a real thing. Like, people think, oh, that's an illusion or that's a little graphic. No, I felt my heart crack.
My chest hurt.
Yes, it was a real, it was the worst pain and heartache that I know that I've ever experienced in my life. And so, I think the difference is that before you could only imagine, or you could maybe try to envision.
Yeah.
But now it's a true, real life, not how it's supposed to be, grief. And
I don't wish that on
but do I
anybody.
see it the same? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think, well, I feel it. I just feel it differently. I feel like I have more compassion and for people and just a deeper understanding of what somebody is actually going through.
And I always try to, in my head, lead with this is like, you don't know what someone's going through.
Right.
So just be kind, and then
Yes.
you don't have a choice of whether you hurt someone or not.
Yes.
So just do the right thing
Yeah.
and be kind always. And believe me, I'm not perfect. But so how did you rely on anybody that really just helped you move forward?
So,
Or anything? I mean, besides God, we know that.
Yeah.
That's a given.
So what I found myself being drawn to was people besides God and my faith and Tommy. Like, I found myself needing to be, or wanting to be, connected with people who had gone through it too, because that's where I had to know how they did it, how they, how they got to the other side, and I remember thinking, okay, so I guess this was August after Tyler had passed in June, and I was doing the football game day program for Clear Lake High School, and I'm sorry, I take that back. This was it was a cover shoot for Change magazine. And I had already committed to do it. I just told myself, I'm going to do it. I've got to get up. I've got to do it. We're going to do it. And Tommy came with me. And so he sat outside the room, and it was Women of Change. And these women were nominated by different people in the community for their service.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember I said, you have to stay here. Like, we couldn't be apart, really. Like, we had to have each other near. And I went into the room, and this woman walks in, and she says, she just looked adorable. She was in her suit and her boots, and she just looked, and I said, oh, what do you do? And she just said that she was a paralegal. And I said, okay. She said, but the reason why I was here nominated is because of my mission work and the book that I wrote. And I said, well, what's your mission work? And she said, well, I lost my husband and 4 kids in a car wreck. And I said, I could hardly breathe at that point, because 30 days prior, I was with my friend Christy Tankersley, and we were sitting in the car, and we were just talking about that girl. And we had said, we were talking about how good things happen to bad people. And she said, well, what about I said, don't you remember the people when we were in Bible study and that lady lost her whole family, was wiped out that day? And how we were praying for that, for them. And we were talking about her. I said, I wonder where she is. Is she in a fetal position in the back of her closet still? Or
Yeah.
where is that lady and how is
Yeah.
she surviving? And it had been 8 years prior. But that lady's situation, that whole event, like I didn't even know what that lady's name was. But it was something that was haunting to me. Like I thought about it. I thought about her. And now, 8 years later, I've gone through what I've just gone through, and God has that lady in a room with me by myself.
I'm telling you, he puts
He-
people in your
he
in
does.
your presence
He does.
because
And
there's so many people.
he does. And
Unbelievable.
she told me that day, she said, I said, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you are here in this room with me. And I said, was this, and I said, was this on 45, like close to Dickinson? And she was like, yes. And I said, I remember praying for you in Bible study. And she said, I told her, I said, I've got to just tell you this really quick. I've just recently lost my son tragically. And I said, I would love to spend some time with you. I don't want to talk about it now because we're in a photo shoot and I don't want, this
Yeah.
is not the time. But would you be willing? And she said, absolutely. And she says, but I do want to share this with you, Marie. She says, my heart has healed. God has healed my heart as if though the accident never happened. And I was like, how in the world
That's
is
what
that
I'm
possible?
thinking.
Like, I couldn't believe that which could be true.
Yeah.
But everything inside of me believed her. Like, I believed her.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't wrap my mind around it or my heart around it. But I kept telling Tommy the whole way home, I was like, did you hear me? She said that God had healed her heart as if though the accident never happened. That's what she said. And he was like, wow, that's pretty powerful,
Yeah.
And so, anyway, we ended up meeting and becoming friends and, but I felt like we spent some time and she helped me a whole lot too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just felt like in that moment, at that point in my life, God he had to put somebody in front of me that situation was as bad or worse than my own for survival. And she talked to me about how God healed her. And it was never, like, I never was mad at God. Never. I mean, some people get mad at God, like, why did you do this? Why did you take my son? Like, we live in a fallen world. God doesn't pick people and say, oh, you're going down today. This is how, that's not what he does.
No.
We live in a fallen world. People make mistakes, poor choices, and we all get to, we all have to, we all suffer with that,
Yeah.
And so I never had those feelings towards God. And that was just me personally. I just didn't.
Just as a little girl, when my dad and my brother died like a year and a half apart,
Yeah.
I felt that way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I didn't love God or I didn't trust him. I was just like, why would you do this to my family? Why would you do this to my mom? And, but then one day I really didn't have anybody to talk to because my mom was going through her grief and she was working, trying to support, us and take care of us and make sure we were fed. And my siblings, I guess, I don't know what the boys were doing and you know how it goes. And then my sister's trying to hold the fort down,
Yeah.
keep the house clean and keep us out of trouble. So I really didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to, but I felt like that for a while. And then it was just like one day I woke up and I was like, God didn't do this to me. But I figured it out on my own. Because
Yeah,
my
that's
faith
maturity,
was...
too.
Yeah, but I was probably still... I was
Yes.
still under 12 years
Yeah.
old when all this went down. And I just remember I woke up one day and it was like, he didn't do this to me. This is life.
Right.
People are born... And, we'd lost people, like, shortly after that. Older people, I was like, wow, this really keeps happening. But it's just part of life. And unfortunately, when they're young, it just doesn't seem fair. But...
Life isn't fair.
No. And no one ever told us it would be. Nope.
And he doesn't ever tell us that. He says we will have trials and tribulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll all be together one day and understand it all. And,
Yeah.
I
agree.
look forward to that day too,
yeah.
and that reunion. But in the meantime, we get a life to still live down here.
And it's a blessing.
Yeah.
When I hear people complaining about, I'm going to be 60 this year. I whip my head around. I'm like, do you know what a privilege that is?
Yeah.
And they kind of, what do you mean? I was like, not everybody gets that opportunity. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I want to see my grandkids.
Yes.
I want to live a long life with Richie. I want all those things.
Yes.
And the people that don't get it, it's I feel bad. But I'm not going to complain
No.
about, I'm going to celebrate.
Yes.
I'm going to, every
Absolutely,
day.
yes.
Every day I
It's
celebrate.
a gift.
It is. It
Every
truly
day
is.
is a gift, and it's a blessing. And, I try not to take that for granted.
Yeah.
Because it's really that. It can, one day your life is this, you think is this, almost perfect little family.
Yeah.
And the next second, it's rocked to its core.
Right.
And everyone's life is changed forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so when I'm feeling down or have doubts or whatever, I have this thing, a ritual I do. I go through 3 to 5 things I'm grateful for, and it switches my mood. It's just like, okay, yeah, whatever's bugging you, it's gone. Is there anything that, besides prayer or whatever, that you do on a daily or whenever you're just kind of feeling like, because we all are going to feel that
and
sometimes.
we do have those days.
Yes.
And I do still have those days, and I do think about those. And, always, when those things seep in, like sometimes I'll be sitting on my couch, I'll be in the living room by myself, and I'll look over where Tommy would sit. And, it'll make me teary-eyed because, even though I'm relieved that he's free of the suffering, I still miss him.
Yeah.
I still miss him sitting. I miss the sounds in a weird way
Yeah.
of all of that, and I don't know. I just sometimes I allow myself to think whatever it is I'm thinking or whatever's crossing my mind at the time. And then I just try not, and I may cry for 5 minutes or so like that. I may get teary-eyed, but then I start thinking, I just channel my thoughts to something positive. I'll look over, I had that big picture of him that was on his little pamphlet at the service, and he's in
I love that
blue and
picture.
he's dark blue eyes,
Those
just beautiful.
iridescent
He's a
eyes.
beautiful man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
I said that this morning because I kind of looked at, because I was trying to remember the dates, and I looked it up, and I'm on the phone with Taryn, and I go, damn, he was cute.
I know, he was. And, and then there's so many good memories and so many fond memories that I just take myself there. I try not to dwell too hard and too long
Yeah.
on the things that make me sad, and I just try to move it on or flip it over to start moving,
Yeah. That's me too.
think of positive things and
I'm like,
remembering.
I start going, where are you going? What are you
Because-
grateful for? And then I start, going through my
and
list.
It's okay. I mean, it's okay to. I don't like to ever take myself back to the night, all the actions of that. Like I can take myself back to where I could barely breathe.
Yeah.
But I did that a few times.
I think that was part of my problem, like the first 5 years, is because I would always, not the first 5, probably a couple. I think I kind of dwelled too much on how Chase passed away instead of the life he lived.
Yeah.
And one day my younger sister just said, Tracy, she was extremely worried about me. She was worried she was never going to get her sister back.
Yeah.
And she was like, why don't you focus on how he lived and his life instead of how he died? And I was like, okay. With mine, it was a little bit different. He was drinking and driving.
Yeah.
And I was like, I told him,
Yeah.
I would go back to that place. I told him never to
Yeah.
do that. Why didn't they let, So
I get it.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
It helped me for her just to make that statement, because I would tell myself, okay, do what Kelly said. Do what Kelly said, and it helped me move forward.
Yeah.
But we all beat ourselves up sometimes.
Oh,
We're
I know.
hard on ourselves.
Yeah, and all the things. I get it. I've gone through all the things too, but
This, I'm not trying to sound like pointing fingers or anything, but I think this would help people, especially people who haven't been through this. Is there anything that you could give advice not to say to a grieving parent or wife? Because so many people say things and they don't mean it offensively. But it's happened to me. I'm not going to go through what all they've said, but it was like, you're like going, really? You just said that? Because I knew it came from love, but it was just inappropriate.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that it would help people who aren't grieving to maybe think before they speak.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, I don't know if one particular thing stood out, because I think even if somebody did say something stupid or whatever, I don't even think I think I was so numb for a while that if you did say that, I probably, okay, that was,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so
Next.
trivial
Yeah.
to what I was feeling inside,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And that's how I
people-
dealt with it.
Yeah.
But other people would say, I can't believe they said that. I'm like, they meant it with love.
Yeah.
They didn't mean it hurtful.
Yeah,
you know.
maybe, people will say.
The rumors bothered me.
Yeah.
That went around,
Yes.
And I'm sure.
Oh,
you
yes, we
experienced-
had the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even go to the grocery store in my local area for probably 4 months.
Oh, yeah.
Because
You didn't want to see somebody.
I couldn't talk. I just couldn't.
Well,
So I went to.
The tears
yeah.
would flow.
Yes.
Or I'd send Richie.
And I would always going to see somebody that I knew, and so I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't put myself in that position
Yeah.
to have to relive everything, because people mean well.
They
and
do.
people just want to hug you. And the thing about this, I don't want to, that didn't fall short on me. I appreciated all of that. I appreciated everything that everybody did for me, the prayers and the notes and the cards and the texts and the emails and all the things, and just wanting to just take a piece of it, just a smidge from me of pain. That's what a hug does.
Yeah, I think so, too.
That's what it does. It just taking a little something from you till you don't have to bear it all. And, I appreciated, everybody standing in there with me and caring for our family, in that way. But, I think people saying, it's going to be okay, hearing that in the very beginning is hard, because nothing feels okay. Nothing. And you and I know now that it's going to be okay, especially if you have your foundation of faith laid. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's never okay in the way it once was,
Right.
but it does. You are able to find joy and happiness and live life
Yeah.
again. It's there. It happens. It does happen, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's a gradual thing.
Baby steps.
It's baby steps, and time does buy healing. Jesus provides that as well.
Yeah. Did I don't know if you've been through. I mean, probably, but what did you ever have experience like with Tyler's friends getting married or having a baby?
Gosh.
That one kind of sent me over. I mean, I was happy for them, but I remember holding one of Chase's friends' babies for the first time, and the waterworks came. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, his friend and his wife going, I'm so sorry. But it was like the memory or the thought that he's never going to have this.
Yeah.
But I
Yes.
was so happy, obviously thrilled for them. And at their wedding.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, at their wedding, their nephew's name was Chase, and he was in the wedding, and he was being a little stinker, and I was like, that looks like my
like that.
Chase. But he was adorable, and I just felt Chase there.
Yeah.
He would have been there,
Yeah.
But, so you had to do
I
that?
think so Tyler was 6 months from graduating from Texas Tech, and I think when everyone was posting, the graduation stuff, all of that was just,
Yeah.
and it wasn't, and it's not. I want to still see those people. I don't want people to stop doing that.
Yeah.
But it was just that, little jab, because not a jab like in anything personal way, just at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
It tugs at your heartstrings.
sure.
And so that I remember. And then his first friend that got married was Dustin Hopkins, who was a good friend of Tyler's. And Tommy and I went to that wedding, and we love that kid, and we were so happy for him. But we had to step out there's parts of it, not at the wedding, but at the reception, because you're looking that like he should be here. These are all his friends, lots of his friends, and he's not. This is never going to happen for him.
Yeah.
And that part is hard, when you go through all of those stages, now you'd be almost 30, it'd be 33. And I'm thinking, God, what would he be doing?
I know.
What would he be like? What would his children be like? What would that feel like?
Yeah. It would have been beautiful.
It would have been, amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Sometimes I go to my, I have to look at my life and go, is this really my life? Is this is not how this was supposed to be.
No.
This is not what I envisioned, and here I am now in life without a son and without my husband, and it's reality.
Yeah.
And it's harsh reality. So, but I think we learn and we grow from every experience that we go through, and I wouldn't, especially in Tommy's journey, I wouldn't do anything different. Like we surrounded him with so much love and happiness. We had been married when he passed 38 and a half years. And so,
Unbelievable.
And so he was amazing.
Y'all
And I
grew
was
up
very
together.
lucky. Yeah, we met in 7th grade.
I was like, literally.
Yeah, literally we did.
So
Yeah.
this might sound like a strange question, but I think about this. If you knew then, not relive the grief, but I would never want to not have Chase for those almost 22 years.
No, I would. I would. Yeah, because our marriage was great, and we had a good marriage, and we had a good time, and we had fun raising our kids, and you always can look back and go, maybe we should have done this differently or that differently. But that's life. Everybody's going to do that.
No matter what it is.
Yeah.
Buying a new car. Oh, I shouldn't have bought that car. It's
Yes.
just, that's life. You're always going to think about those things. I thought about things I could have been a better mom at.
Yeah.
Because, I was 20 years old when I had him, and we kind of grew together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, he got bonus Richie. And then, he really raised Chase. But I wouldn't change, of course I would love to change it for a different outcome.
Yeah.
But if someone said, well, you have to do it again in about 20, whatever, say you die and come back as the same person, I'm like, oh yeah, I'd do it again.
Yeah.
He was beautiful.
Yeah.
And he was such a bright light. And so
I know,
What
and
are
I
your
feel that
thoughts?
same
Yeah.
about Tyler. And he had such a great personality, and he was fun, and he
What's your favorite memory? Or do you, there's probably too many, but
he was super funny. But one of my favorite memories, I think he was about 4. Yeah, I think he was about 4, and we had moved to New Mexico, and we were in the drive-thru at McDonald's, and he'd gotten a Happy Meal. And he said, I handed him back, his Happy Meal. And I can see him in the rearview mirror in his eyes, and he opens up his cheeseburger, and I can see him looking at it like, ugh. and he goes, Mommy, how come they put rice on my cheeseburger? And it was the little one. He goes, how come they put rice on my cheeseburger? And I literally cried. It was so funny. But he was fun. He was such a great kid and fun and funny and just a good heart. He was a mama's boy and, you just, so many fond memories.
Yeah.
That kid, and it was weird. One of the other things too, I was going to, since I'm thinking about this, maybe wanted to touch on was for me at first going to the cemetery was a thing. Like I had to go, like for every little thing, I felt like I needed to be at the cemetery. And then there came a time when we weren't going to be able to be at the cemetery at his birthday. And so it was bothering me a great deal. Like I felt like, oh, well then Tyler's left out. Like it was one of those things. Mm-hmm. And we were in Colorado and we ended up deciding, I was with my other kids too, let's get up and do a sunrise. And so we did. We all got up and did a sunrise.
Beautiful.
And it was absolutely beautiful. And it was then that I realized